Hello, hello, hello. Mic check. 1, 2, 3. Mic check, mic check. How's everybody doing today? Let me know if you can hear me, please, and we will go from there. Talk about these storms rolling through. There's a lot happening, so I thought I'd go live a little early and do um, a bit of informal back and forth with you before digging into everything. So let me know if you can see me. Let me know if you can hear me, and we will go from there. I'm on Facebook and YouTube and my app as well. So we'll go from there. Want everyone to take a deep breath. We have these storms often in August. They're often, we call them ridge riders. They're on the big dome of heat. They ride on the ridge, and that's where we're at today. Often means a lot of wind. I know there's several tornado warnings you're seeing. Um, don't freak out. There can sometimes be little weak spin ups that come from these, but the winds associated with the tornadoes are the same, if not um, uh, the same as the straight line wind. The straight line wind is what I want everybody to take away from this. Is it looks pretty nasty for quite a bit of wind out there. So um, let me make sure everything's working here. I've got some social media comments that'll pop up. That way we can interact. I'll try my best to pay attention to those and collaborate when I can, but my focus is actually on this other screen down here, which has got the radar. So I won't be able to, do a lot of back and forth, but I'll do my very best for you, just so we can chat. And I appreciate all your reports and things like that. I've got 3 screens, so I'm messing all around. So let's do the overall picture here. What's going on? And let me know. I would appreciate your feedback too. If you can see my screen, if the cities are too small, I know it's a little hard because you can't manually zoom up on the cities on a video, but I don't want to lose too much real estate here. So I think it's important to keep it in the middle of your screen, but hopefully you're able to figure out where you're at, see Lake Michigan and all that. So here's the radar as we run through the afternoon. What I'm going to do is take off the alerts. There's so much going on, and just show you the overall radar. I can zoom out a little bit here, and you can get the idea of where we're at, what's going on. It's this big area coming through. I'm going to change radar sites here so you can get a better picture, and we'll put it into motion for you. There's a whole bunch of rain with this. If you're watching from Stark County and Pulaski County, you know very well there's a whole bunch of hail with it as well. So the storms you see coming through Indiana right now, those are the ones that have a lot of hail. So North Judson, Knox, Bass Lake, that area saw quite a bit of hail, and it does continue through the afternoon. Some of the other ones to the west near Chicago. Now that's basically all wind, 70 to 80 mile an hour wind. It looks like the focus for that will be northern Indiana, southwest Michigan. You're not necessarily completely out of the woods, but the main threat does appear to be north and central Indiana through the midday and into the afternoon hours. So we'll watch that together. I'm going to do a couple things on my phone as well. Trying to multitask here, keep you updated with everything, but also make sure I get the latest reports coming in, which in the future, I think what I'm going to do is try to do some of these, have another meteorologist do a live stream with me, can kind of tag team a little bit. I think that would help just allow a little bit more focus on what you guys are saying, because my least favorite part is when I'm trying to do this, I just can't multitask 8 different things at once. So I read the radar, I talk about what's going on, but I would really value reading a lot of your comments and seeing what's going on in your backyard, things like that. And I'm having trouble doing that just because I can only do one thing at a time. But I know you're getting some of the comments up there, and that's great. I've been working hard to make that work. I think it's a really cool tool that we can all use together. And when I can actually read it, I'm able to see what's going on, what's not going on. 14. All right. Okay. Going to focus on the radar now. Hopefully you're seeing comments and able to interact with each other. So here's what's going on. Put this into motion for you. I'm going to stop it. So these storms right here, I know there's a lot of flashing, but everyone just stay calm. Just trust me here. These storms right here have a decent amount of wind, but the main story with these storms is hail. There's been over towards Stark County, down towards Knox. I mean, there was hail that was bigger than the size of baseballs. So just torrential hail down that way. Specifically, oops, let me get an update here. 1 second. Specifically where I drew the circle there, that's the best chance for the hail. The wind is going to be on the Chicago side, the Illinois side. That's where there's quite a bit of wind showing up, and rotation for that matter as well. That would be over here. And you can see which way it's moving. I'll put it back into motion for you. It is moving to the east with a little bit of a south component. Again, that would make me think the biggest threat would be in northern Indiana. Southwest Michigan, you certainly need to keep your eye tuned to what's going on, but it does seem a little bit better situation for Michigan than it does northern Indiana through the next 3 to 4 hours or so. Sorry, open up a different window. I'm going to put this here. Got a couple things I'm trying to open for a second. Always appreciate your guys' reports, because that's what we use to verify what we're seeing on radar is correct, and then we can warn folks ahead of the storm. Definitely a decent amount of damage in Illinois. So that's what we need to watch out for as this moves into our region. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to stop the radar here. This is a bunch of radars combined. I'm going to put on Chicago's radar because that's what is the most active right now. We'll let that load and we'll use our radar as a backup. And I'm going to turn on, so you guys can see it, I'm going to turn on the alerts. There's just a lot going on right now. I recognize you look at this, you're just like, everything's yellow and orange and red and everything's terrible. There's a lot of wind with this. That's the main story I want you to take away from this. I know you hear tornado and everyone thinks the spring, huge ones that are on the ground for a long time. That is not the case. Most often it is typically going to be one that is short-lived, that kind of just spins up and then quickly goes back into the sky, but you get widespread winds that are 70 to 80 miles an hour, so you get lots of damage all across the region that would resemble tornado power outages, trees down, etc. Let me do one thing real quick. 1 second. Oh my God. Don't know why my camera's so blurry. Sorry about that, but that's not important. That's for sure. Okay, so let's just go over the warnings first. But I want everyone to reiterate, I want everyone to remember that the threat with this is straight line wind. You're going to get a lot of damage over a wide area. Trees down, power lines down. When you get those big tornadoes in the spring, you hear about it, right? You think of Three Rivers. I believe it was the Menards there that was hit, the fatality of the child in Edwardsburg. That's usually the big takeaway with those spring tornadoes. In the late summer and early fall, you get these events. They're sometimes referred to as derechos, straight line wind, microbursts. It's still 70 to 80 mile an hour winds, but it's very, very widespread. So you have way more damage than a tornado because the tornado is so localized. And yes, you can get tornadoes with these. They kind of spin up ahead of the storm, but they're not those strong ones that we see in the spring. So I don't want I don't want folks thinking they're going to get on a live video and see a humongous tornado on the ground that sticks around for 100 miles. That is not the setup. This setup is because of straight line wind. And sometimes the National Weather Service will actually issue tornado warnings, even if there aren't tornadoes, when the wind exceeds like 80 miles an hour, because that will do widespread damage. And they want people in bigger cities, think of Chicago, for example, or South Bend, they want you to get inside and away from the windows. So it doesn't happen often, but this is kind of an example of where it would. So I want to go through the warnings. Right now for Porter County, there is a tornado warning. Radar indicated rotation. We'll go through the radar and look at all of that. Lake County, same deal. Tornado warning for you. Radar indicated. We'll make our way down to Jasper County. The reason that is also red is because that's a severe thunderstorm warning with wind that could exceed 100 miles an hour. That will do widespread damage. Okay, as this pushes into northwest Indiana, Porter County, Lake County, over towards Jasper and Newton counties in the region there. They're seeing anywhere from 80 to 100 mile an hour winds ahead of that storm. Our counties in Michiana, or the rest of Michiana, I should say, not under a warning, but that will change as these continue to push eastward. So let's dig into the radar data a little bit. I'm going to do a couple of things here. First thing I'm going to do is remove the alert boxes so we can kind of focus. Let me, oops, I don't want models. I'm going to change this. I'm going to put the radar back on, the local radar. And sorry, I know my screen's bouncing around and doing a million different things here. So this is northwest Indiana. We'll focus there. The first thing I want to do is look at the velocity data. So when you look at this, we'll probably, once this loads, see a decent amount of bright colors, and that would be some of the wind that's associated with these storms as the data loads here at the back end. Wind associated with these storms that, again, are exceeding 70 to 80 miles an hour. They're really strong out there. Try our local radar here. So, for example, you see that like brown in there, that would easily be 80 miles an hour near Maryville, Crown Point. That's heading towards Valpo and going to go down US 30. So think about that if you're in that area. Wanata in southern LaPorte County, possibly LaPorte. We'll see as this continues pushing eastward, but definitely Wanata, Knox, Bass Lake, North Judson. That area within the next 30 to 45 minutes, you're going to get slammed with this wind. Expect widespread damage with widespread power outages. Southern LaPorte and Stark County. Again, you've got some time, a half hour, but you need to start thinking about going inside. I would treat it as a giant tornado as far as area, as far as real estate goes, not the size. But I want you to think, all right, well, 70, 80 mile an hour winds, that could take a branch from a tree and throw it in a window. With that kind of wind, you wouldn't get a window often that's able to sustain that kind of force. So that's the threat here. You're not, when this is all said and done, we're not going to see reports of houses that have collapsed, things like that. You're going to see trees down. You're going to see power lines down. You're going to see trampolines all over the place. That's the kind of storm that this is. So I want to make sure everyone's aware. You're going to see tornado warnings at the bottom of your screen here on my live stream. You're going to hear your phones go off. But when you look outside, you may not see one because there may not be one. But the wind associated with these storms will produce the same type of damage that a tornado would. Doesn't matter if the wind is twisting like that or going straight at you. Wind is wind, velocity is velocity, and it will do the same damage. The downside with this type of setup is the damage is more widespread. All right, so again, put on the radar. This is right now in the Chicagoland, northwest Indiana. It's pushing to the east and will impact southern LaPorte, Stark, and Pulaski County first in our area. Zoom back out here so you get a little view of it. I will also put it into motion, let the data load here a little bit, and you'll be able to see a lot of this is moving to the east and a southerly component as well. As you're watching the radar data, let me look at a couple things over here on my other screen because I've got too many of them for my own good. But just making sure I'm not missing any reports. Sorry, just going through comments, making sure I'm not missing anything. I'm looking at official channels with the National Weather Service, making sure I am understanding what they're seeing. Those folks are the scientists when it comes to radar physics. So I sit here and I can read radar with you, but those are the folks that issue the warnings, and they have a lot more training than I do. So it's helpful. Just to make sure I'm on the same boat with them. But hands down, I want everyone's focus to be just wind. Tornado, severe thunderstorm warning, kind of just get rid of that in your mind and just think it's going to get really windy if you're ahead of these storms. Right now, my gut feeling is a lot of northern Indiana is impacted. Southern Michigan, you're absolutely not out of the woods. If you look at radar, you can see it sneaking over Lake Michigan. But the bulk of this appears to be in northern Indiana as we push through the afternoon. Okay, let me stop the loop here. Go back to live imagery. And then we will look at velocity data again because I want to go through it with you and check out the different wind speeds. Also, excuse me, I know last night we were live again tonight, and I'm eating some strawberries, drinking coffee. So I know there's nothing more annoying than listening to somebody eat. I don't know why my camera's so blurry either. Sorry about that, but not the focus, that's for sure. All right, so let's do a couple of things here. I'm going to look at the different velocity data again. Where you see the brighter colors here, I know this is hard, but basically the browns, that's where it is really, really windy out there. Winds that could top 80 miles an hour. I really want to show you, let me do one more thing. Let me put that Chicago radar back on. Okay, let's let the data load. Hopefully this loads this time. The Chicago radar velocity would be quite a bit more impressive. So I'll give that a second, let it load. New data is just coming in on this sweep. Because once we get the full picture of the wind, I think it will be telling on that radar site. The wind is going to be coming through Lake County right now, anywhere from 70 to 80 miles an hour. Extremely, extremely windy in this area. Right here, if you live in this area, Northwest Indiana, that is a lot of wind coming your way, specifically moving out of Lake County and into Porter County. So what happens with a system like this? So the wind is like right there. I know it's hard to see, but basically if you live somewhere in that white area I drew, that's the leading edge of the wind. So you get blasted with 70, 80 mile an hour winds, and then it pours and pours and pours and pours for like an hour. You get 2 inches plus of rain, but that big blast of wind is caused by that rain that slams down at the ground. And that's what we're seeing in this area. So do expect that to continue as it moves to the east. I fully expect additional warnings to be issued in LaPorte County, also towards Stark County as well, as this continues to push to the east. Yeah, that's a great example. See that green right there? That is 70 to 80 mile an hour winds pushing over to the east. It is moving this way. So if you live in Valpo, if you live in Wanatah, this is pushing in your direction over the next couple of hours. I can actually put and there we go, tornado warning in effect for LaPorte County. Again, notice as we're tracking together here, we're not seeing rotation, right? I'm not seeing a bunch of rotation on radar, but it's completely irrelevant when you get 80 mile an hour winds. It will do the same damage as a weak spin up tornado on a very, very large real estate scale. All right, so think about a tornado. Sometimes you're like, oh, I heard about this little one that spun up in a neighborhood and did some roof damage to 2 homes. End of story. This will do roof damage to 2 cities in every neighborhood in those cities because the wind is widespread, universal. So what the Weather Service does sometimes is they issue tornado warnings because that's what activates the EAS alerts on your phone. It's what activates the sirens and things like that to get people to take this seriously, because oftentimes severe thunderstorm warnings don't produce a lot of damage. And if you hear about that, you may not take it seriously. The Weather Service doesn't do this often, so you have to take it seriously and understand what I'm saying. Don't shrug your shoulders and be like, oh, I've lived here my whole life. These are typical storms. We have seen storms like this, and we will see them again, but these are pretty nasty storms. Anytime you get wind above 70, it does damage. 80 is when you start to get some nasty, nasty damage with trees down all over the place. You'll see the power lines all down on a single road. 80-mile-an-hour wind is rough. Think about if you're driving down the toll road, you stick your hand out. First off, you shouldn't be going 80, but if you do, you know what I'm talking about, how much force that is. Imagine that on a big tree or a building. And that's where you get the windows that get blown out. So anyway, that's my rant for now, but that's what we're watching as this pushes into Porter County, rapidly moving to the east. LaPorte County, you're next. That would be Michigan City, LaPorte, Wanata, and every little town in LaPorte County. You would be next in line for this storm as it pushes to the east. I can try to put some of this, let me see if I can get my velocity data in motion, because it'll really help tell the story here as it pushes to the east. A lot of data is loading on the back end, so forgive me here for the messy data, but yeah, that didn't work like I thought it would. Anyway, you get the point though. As this pushes to the east, pretty nasty wind coming. Right now, it's basically downtown Valpo. That would mean, Westville, Michigan City, you'd be next in line. We're talking 10 minutes here. You need to be inside, away from windows. Even if there's not rotation, you're going to get a lot of really nasty wind with this. 100% guaranteed. So away from windows is your best bet. That'd be Wanata and La Crosse. Eventually, this is going to push towards Rolling Prairie and New Carlisle, and then eventually the South Bend, Plymouth, and Niles area. Probably within the next 45 minutes. Still plenty of time for those regions, but I'm trying to get you ahead of the game here. That way you know what's coming. Let's put a couple of storm tracks. I'm going to do a couple of things. You're going to see things pop up on your screen. I'm going to do a couple of different storm tracks here. I'll just do a manual one. So here's the line. Let's see if it lets me do this here. Here's the line of really gusty wind, and it is pushing to the east. It's like 60 miles an hour, I think. Let me actually look at that real fast. How fast are these things moving? Yeah, they are cruising. Cruising. So let's do reading one thing, and I'll be right with you. All right, so I'm going to put on a couple of storm tracks just so we can see where this thing is going. And then I'm going to do a little bit of radar analysis with you. Make sure you guys can see it on your screen. Looks good. Just read some of your comments here. Let's see. Thanks for all the reports. I've got tons of people on from Lake and Porter County. So thank you all for letting us know what's happening. That way we can warn folks in LaPorte County, over towards St. Joseph County as this races to the east. So I appreciate all these reports I'm seeing. It is super helpful. Let me turn on the regular radar here just so you can get an overview of what's going on. I'm going to zoom out. Let's get the overall picture here. Get rid of that cone. I'm also going to get rid of all the alerts. We get it. There's severe weather alerts. So there's Michiana in the middle of your screen. I've got it colored on the counties that I mainly serve. Big area of red is torrential rainfall. That torrential rainfall is dumping all that water on the ground, and then once it hits the ground, it has to push the air out, right? It's called a microburst. Straight line wind, and it is causing winds that are in excess of 80 miles an hour in parts of Porter County right now. That's pushing into LaPorte County. So if you live in Michigan City, LaPorte, Wanata, And anywhere in between in LaPorte County, you're going to get slammed with these winds that are coming in. So this is regular radar. If you're on the app, this is what you see. This is velocity data, and we often use this to track rotation. I'm not nearly as concerned with rotation today. Now, there may be a little bit. You see this little guy right here? That would be some rotation. There could be a spin-up tornado with that near the Portage-Chesterton area, moving right along the toll road. But I just don't want to focus on that too much because this big blob of green is widespread. 70 to 80 mile an hour winds as it pushes to the east. So yes, you could get a little spin up tornado. The winds would be pretty close to the same as the actual winds of the storm. And that's the big takeaway here is the winds are just remarkably nasty with this. All these different colors just indicate really gusty wind. The green right at the leading edge there, I can draw it for you right here. Is where the really gusty winds are at as this pushes over to the east. So that's what we want to watch as new data comes in. But that's what we want to watch here as this continues to move in. Take off a couple of things here. Put the warnings back on. We see the red. Those are tornado warnings. That would include Stark County and LaPorte County. So there's Stark County's warning. There's LaPorte County's warning. Again, the reason these are warned, first off, in northern Porter County, there is a little rotation. Again, you can see it there. It's that little blob right there. There is a little rotation pushing south of Chesterton along the toll road. However, I want to continue to reiterate here that this bright green you see way ahead of the line right here, that's 70 to 80 mile an hour winds moving to the east. So what the Weather Service does is say, all right, yeah, there could be a spin up tornado. The winds with that would be about 90-ish miles an hour, somewhere in that ballpark. But everybody is going to get 70 to 80 mile an hour winds. That does remarkable damage. That will knock down trees. Power lines are going to be down. When that happens, the Weather Service often says, all right, we're just going to issue tornado warnings because the damage is going to look like it, whether it was wind going in one direction or twisting. And number two, it's going to do damage everywhere. So it forces your phones to get those EAS alerts when tornado warnings are issued. A lot of county folks, EMA folks here, will sound the sirens when those are issued. So it just gives the public a little bit more notice. Even though the wind may not be twisting where you live, it's going to go straight at you and do the same damage. There is a lot of focus on terminology because of social media. People, if you hear severe thunderstorm warning, you kind of shrug your shoulders. If you hear tornado warning, you take it seriously. I think this is probably the right call today because these winds are aggressively nasty, and we're going to get damage. Right now, it continues to look like mainly Indiana, but as you can tell here, looking at the storm as it pushes the east and southeast, I mean, this would have it's getting a little closer to like New Buffalo, so it may clip the southern part of Michigan. Certainly something we're watching, but right now, the main concern, let me make my marker bigger, is basically right here. And I know this is hard to see. There's all these flashing colors. That's LaPorte County, that's Stark County, and that's Pulaski County. If you live in those areas, that's where we're watching as this continues to push to the east. I'll put on the regular radar. I'm going to get rid of all the warnings. That way you can kind of just digest what's going on. Hopefully you can see the cities. I tried to make them a little bit bigger. I know it's hard because you can't zoom in on your phone, but if you're watching from your phone, you can put it your TV. I'm on my my YouTube and my Matt Rudkin weather app. You can stream that to your TV if you're at home. But basically, the area in white that I circle, that's where the gusty winds are. That's Porter County, that's LaPorte County, Stark, Pulaski, and be Jasper counties. That's what we're watching. As this continues to push to the east, that would mean St. Joseph County, Marshall County, Fulton County, Cass County, Indiana, and possibly Berrien County would be next in line within about a half hour. Okay, so if you live in those regions, about a half hour. If you're east of there, Cass County, Michigan, Elkhart, Kosciuszko counties, probably like an hour. All right, I can't see your comments in the moment, but I guarantee you people are asking, like, what about Niles? What about Warsaw? We're just going to track this together. We're going to focus on the communities it's currently impacting and about to impact, and then focus on your town if you're farther east. So if you live east in northern Indiana or southern Michigan, think about Elkhart, LaGrange, Warsaw. You're not the focus right now. All right. The focus is going to be LaPorte, Knox, over towards Winnemac. And then the focus is going to be South Bend, Mishawaka, Niles, Plymouth. Think about everything going west to east. So that's what I'm doing today. I'm sorry I can't see your comments. Next time we have a big outbreak like this, I'll try to bring somebody else on. I think it'd be fun to interact with another meteorologist, maybe Brian Dukes, who's helped me out several times. But also then I can focus on some of your comments. But that's what I'm doing for today. So hopefully that works for everybody. Let me throw on a couple new comments, make sure I'm not missing stuff. But lots of damage in northeast Illinois. So we have to assume that's going to continue as it pushes through Indiana and perhaps southern Michigan in the next 2 hours or so. Once this line goes through, folks, we're done. So at least we don't have to worry about this, all day. But certainly a nasty afternoon. Just reading a couple things. Stay patient with me. Yeah. All right. So this wind is going to cause problems, folks, and I'm never fun. But where you see that bright green pushing LaPorte County, that's going to be at least 80-mile-an-hour winds. That is a weak tornado on a very wide area of real estate. So where I've got that circle, you're next in line. So if you live near Michigan City, near LaPorte, near Knox or Winnemac, or anywhere between Winnemac and Michigan City, think about driving up 35. You're next in line. The winds are going to be 80 to 90 miles an hour. It's going to be very windy. Trees are going to fall. Power is going to go out. Do expect that this afternoon. Then the wind will subside and it's going to rain cats and dogs for like an hour. That's going to be the focus here over the next little bit. I do have to tell you, I live in Niles. I live in a little house in Niles. I'm hoping I have power. If I don't, I'll try to do some stuff with my phone on Facebook and YouTube, but it's very possible I also lose my power. All the TV stations, I assume, are going live. Most of them should have generator backup so they can keep you updated. I know there's great streamers online as well. And no hard feelings. We're all part of a big team together. So do what you got to do if I lose power and I go offline. But I will do my best to stick with you as we push through the afternoon. I'm going to, I think I'm going to. I'm going to shut this off, put on our local radar here, see how that data is. So again, where that circle is at is the very, very gusty wind and also heavy rain now at this point. Wait for the velocity data to load here. Getting a new sweep of data in, so give that a second. But yeah, basically the US 35 corridor. So that would be Michigan City, LaPorte, Knox, and Winnemac. Those communities are next in line for the really gusty winds that are coming in upwards of like 80 miles an hour. Let's see here. Could be a little bit of hail, but I don't think it'd be like what we saw this morning. That was pretty nasty. Those were individual storms. When you get into a line like this, it's usually not a hail concern, it is wind. Right there, though, let me get rid of my little circle that I drew. I'll draw another one just to make things really clear. So let's make it some more cities to pop up. There we go. Actually, I'm not going to draw. I'm going to move the map. So this is LaPorte County and Berrien County. You can see New Buffalo Township, but the town of New Buffalo there. And then you make your way into Indiana, the city of LaPorte, Kingsford Heights, for example, Wanata there down in US 30. You're getting the really gusty wind right now. LaPorte, you're going to in literally 2 to 3 minutes if you're not already. And as this pushes to the east, Kingsford Heights and Knox, North Judson, you are next in line. This wind's going to be 80 to 90 miles an hour. The downside, too, unfortunately, I wish I had better news. We saw quite a bit of rain the past 24 to 48 hours, and that rain prohibits tree roots from really gripping onto the soil, makes trees more susceptible to damage. I think tree damage is going to be very widespread and very common. Power outages are going to be very widespread and very common as well. The wind with this is just straight nasty. It is like a weak tornado over a very, very large area. So you're going to have just remarkable amounts of pictures of trees down, et cetera, et cetera. The focus here is right on the leading edge. So we often call this a bow echo. When you see this backwards C, right? Looks like a C, but it's backwards. Textbook classic meteorology wind gusts. Just textbook classic. So that area, LaPorte and anywhere in LaPorte County, basically, is getting that real gusty wind as it pushes to the east. Again, you can see right there. Oops, sorry. I keep getting new data in here that has to reload. But right there along that C is where the really, really gusty wind is with these particular storms. And this thing is just booking like 60 to 70 miles an hour to the east. So it doesn't give a lot of time for you to prepare, which is why I went live a little earlier. Hopefully you're all at this point knowing what's going on. But South Bend and Mishawaka down towards, Plymouth, basically anywhere between Plymouth and South Bend, you're next in line in the next half hour. That would include Mishawaka and Notre Dame. Anywhere on the south side of St. Joe County, Plymouth, anywhere on the north side of Marshall County, and really just Marshall County. St. Joseph and Marshall County are next in line as this continues to push to the east. So let me get rid of my little drawing tool there. I like doing velocity. I know that it's not nearly as interesting to look at on a radar, but that's really where you can tell the gusty wind. So that brown color there is very, very gusty winds, upwards of 80 miles an hour. And that's the wind that's going to do a ton of damage. The other thing we should probably talk about is flooding. We've had a decent amount of rain. This is putting down 2 to 3 to 4 inches. So if you're susceptible to flooding, think about that as well. There's just a lot of rain with these. I'm obviously focused most on the wind. That's going to do the damage. The rain's behind it. We'll focus on that once this blows through. But I know there's a lot of questions about tornadoes. We've talked about it. If you're joining in, maybe I'll recap here. What the National Weather Service does. So let me put the warnings back on. So there's actually not a lot of rotation with this. It's great news, right? And you're like, all right, Matt, if there's no rotation, then why the heck are there tornado warnings? These type of storms, often referred to as derechos, when they're really, really long, they last several hundred miles, put down microbursts and straight line wind. What is that? Wind is wind. Tornadoes twist wind. Microburst is wind that goes straight out. When that happens, it does the same damage. So the Weather Service sees the same data we're looking at on this live video, and they're like, all right, 80, 90, 100 mile an hour winds. Sorry, my phones are going off. That does the damage of a weak tornado, but on a very large scale. Usually when we get tornadoes, now don't think about the big spring ones, all right? Think about the little spin up ones. They can do damage to a roof in a neighborhood and get some trees down. This is that kind of damage on a remarkably wide scale. So once this blows through, you're going to see trees down everywhere. You're going to hear about power outages all over the place. It's going to take a while for some of us to get back on. And this is a good example. The Weather Service just warned everybody in Berrien County, Cass County, St. Joseph, Elkhart, Marshall, and Kosciuszko under a tornado warning. There is not a giant tornado in this storm that covers, almost 75 miles. That's not a thing. What they're doing is warning to get the phones, just like you heard mine, go off. A lot of schools are in session. It makes the kids go to the middle of the school away from windows. It's a safety call, which is the right call, by the way. Weather Service is doing just phenomenal with this storm. So I know a lot of people get worked up when you hear about tornadoes. This is not something when we Get damage pictures in later today. You're not going to see houses leveled. You're not going to see roofs that are completely ripped off. But what you're going to see is trees down everywhere. Trees are going to fall everywhere. You're going to see power out probably for a couple days where the worst of this damage is. Um, that's going to be the concern, all right? And I know probably doesn't help the situation. Those with the anxiety probably is not helping. And this is nasty. I don't want to sugarcoat it and be like, no reports of damage anywhere. This is going to be nasty. I'm not sure I'm going to be with you in a half hour if my power goes out. I'll do my best to get back on my phone, but um, it's going to be nasty, and you need to prepare for it. So the Weather Service issuing all these warnings, doing a great job, giving us all a heads up. Hey, get to the lowest level of your home, away from window. Uh, that could be the middle of your house, like a hallway, a bathroom is usually a good spot. You just want to be away from windows. That's the key here. Your house isn't going to crumble and fall on you. But if a tree comes down on your house, you want to be in the middle. That's the safest place where you get the most of the structure there. If you have a basement, that's a terrific place to be. Basements are great places to be during severe weather. The key is away from windows. And if you have a lot of trees around your house, you want to try to get to the middle of your house, lowest level. And then everybody should be fine. We just are going to have to deal with a lot of damage cleanup thereafter. Okay, so we got that out of the way, and I'll keep repeating that. I know I can't see how many people are on, but I know people come and go, and I just want to make sure everyone understands that there's going to be a lot of damage here. You're going to think a tornado hit your backyard. It's likely straight line wind. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Winds can twist or go in the same direction. It does not matter. It will do the same amount of damage. And that's kind of my takeaway here. I want everybody to take this very seriously. These are not your average thunderstorms. They have a lot of rain with them. They're just dumping buckets, and that rain, all that water slams down on the ground, pushes out air in front of it, and that's what we call straight line winds. So if you think if you've got a garden hose and you turn it to maximum and you push it, or you take the garden hose straight down to your driveway, what happens when the water hits it, right? It hits the cement and then spreads out everywhere. It's the exact same physics with this. So the water hits down, it goes out, and that's where you get 70, 80, up to 90 mile an hour winds. Okay. Let's do a couple storm tracks with this, or at least just talk about where it's at. So it's in LaPorte right now. The worst of it's my friends in LaPorte, Michigan City, are getting the brunt of it. Next in line, we got to keep focusing on where this is going, right? Not where it's already happening, where it's going next. South Bend, Mishawaka, Notre Dame, Plymouth, Bremen, Napanee, Wyatt, let's say Granger, and possibly Niles, possibly. Those areas, basically, if you live, I would say from Argus to the state line, somewhere near US 31. If you think about the drive up from Indy, if you're from Argus area, which is down here towards the bottom of your screen, Plymouth, South Bend, and basically to Niles, somewhere in that area, really, really nasty wind, upwards of 80 miles an hour coming your way. That's a huge area of real estate. It's coming to our largest center of population, which is the city of South Bend, Mishawaka, and Granger, pushing into Elkhart and Goshen thereafter, down towards Plymouth as well. So if you live in the heart of Michiana, which would include South Bend, Notre Dame, Mishawaka, Granger, Plymouth, perhaps Niles, we'll see how far north these winds will get. But if you live in the red shaded area, you can see the Weather Service has issued that warning. You're the area that needs to start focusing on taking shelter. That would be within the next 20 minutes. All right, so we've still got time, but enough to take this seriously and make sure you're away from windows, lowest level of your home, a good place to be as this blows through. Probably going to get some tree damage as this continues pushing to the east, and quite a bit of power outages as well. The gustiest winds with this are right here. It's this leading edge. You see where the colors change and they get really bright? That's the nasty wind associated with this storm. Let me change it white. I think it's easier to see. So right there. So it's pushing through the rolling prairie area. New Carlisle, you are next. Pushing through the Knox area. Maybe New Buffalo. I'm still not sold on Southwest Michigan, but I want you to take this very seriously because the winds over the lake are still really nasty. If you're by St. Joe, Benton Harbor, probably going to be okay up there. But down by Niles, down by Buchanan, Three Oaks, Glen, New Buffalo, you want to be in your safe spots. You're just close enough to the Indiana line where a lot of this wind is coming. LaPorte County, it's over you right now. St. Joseph, Marshall County, you are next in line within the next 15 to 20 minutes for really, really nasty wind. Pushing to the east. And I do want to say, I live in Niles. I live in a house with a decent amount of trees around me, and unfortunately, one of those houses with the power line that goes out to the pole. It is very possible I lose power. I don't have a generator here, and even if I did, the internet's probably going to go out. I will try to hop on my phone, but would encourage you to go to a TV station, another streamer, if you do lose me. If you live in Elkhart, Goshen, Warsaw, points eastward, because this is not going to weaken as it pushes through, and is going to continue doing some pretty nasty damage, unfortunately. So just a caveat, if you see me freeze up, I probably lost power. But my little office I have is in my basement, so I'm in my own safe place as this pushes through. All right, I'm going to go back to regular radar. Let's do a little bit of analysis here. I'm going to zoom out. Let me look at a couple things real quick, and then I'll be right back with you. I appreciate everyone's flexibility. I'm trying my hardest to multitask here, and I hope I'm doing okay. I know there's going to be lots of storm damages coming in. But yeah, this is, to put this into perspective, this is probably one of the nastiest storms I've seen in a couple of years. Now, I'm not comparing this to, the spring tornadoes. Those were very nasty, very, very nasty. So I'm not comparing it to those. But as far as a wind event goes, or just a line of storms, I mean, this is pretty rough. I'm looking at some of the damage reports, official reports in Northwest Indiana, Porter and Lake County, and they are quite widespread. So we have to assume that is going to continue as it pushes through our region. It's over LaPorte County now. It is going to get, let me change radar sites here. It is pushing into the New Carlisle area, eventually South Bend Airport, probably 10 minutes, if that, maybe closer to 5 at this point, especially New Carlisle. It's definitely getting close to you. South Bend Airport, probably 10 minutes, if not less than that. Downtown South Bend, I'd say 10-ish minutes. Same deal with Mishawaka, Granger, Notre Dame, etc. You want to be in the middle of your home, away from windows. The wind is nasty with these as it continues to push to the east. It does appear, I can put it back on, and I don't take this with a grain of salt, all right? I'm just trying to give you as much info as I can. The nastiest colors there are pushing due east. That trend continues. That would obviously put it through South Bend and Elkhart, eventually Goshen, eventually Plymouth. The state line is right here. Awful drawing, sorry, but that's the state line. It does appear that a good majority of that is just south of the state line. Now, if you're in New Buffalo, Niles, Buchanan, Glen, Three Oaks, that area along 12, still take this very seriously. If you're north of there, let's say St. Joe, Benton Harbor, Dowagiac, it does appear a lot of this is going to stay to your south. Still very much monitor this because it could change, but some encouraging news there. I want to continue focusing, though, on the wind that is coming through for the Indiana area. Same deal. I'm just changing different sources on the radar, but the brighter colors, that's the gusty wind. Where you see the colors change, pushing into New Carlisle right now, over towards North Liberty and Walkerton, down towards right about there, like the Tyner area. That's where it's very, very windy, and it's moving due east. That would put South Bend, Mishawaka, Granger, Notre Dame, anywhere in the South Bend Metro, basically St. Joseph County, under the gun for really gusty winds. The worst appears to be central and southern St. Joseph County, but the whole county is going to get hit hard with this. I think the worst will probably be downtown and Walkerton, North Liberty, down towards Wyatt. But don't let your guard down. Take this very seriously as you get towards Mishawaka, Granger. You're next in line with this. Obviously, this University of Notre Dame. And then after that, we have to quickly start talking about Elkhart and Dunlap, Middlebury, Shipshewana, Goshen, down towards Bristol. And then eventually, a little thereafter, probably in a half hour or so, you got to start thinking Warsaw, North Webster, Syracuse, Leesburg areas. You are next in line for this. So want to continue focusing on every area that we can and not lose focus, but there's just a lot of people impacted by this one. Go back to regular radar as new data is coming in. This is kind of a good example. So let me show you, I'm going to draw on here. So this is the leading edge of the line. See how it kind of looks like a C, but it's backwards? We call that a bow echo. That's where the really gusty winds are. So what's going to happen if you're ahead of this, you're going to get this big blast of wind. It's going to last like 60-ish seconds. It's going to be very, very windy. You're going to see the trees bend. Some of them are going to come down. They're all going to go in the same direction. And then the wind kind of lightens up. And then it just pours and pours and pours for like 45 minutes to an hour with lightning and thunder. So the big blast of winds first. Once that thing comes through, the severe threat kind of decreases. You just get a remarkable amount of rain. But it's that 60-ish second blast of wind that's going to do all the damage ahead of this line of storms. You'll hear it. I would encourage you not to go outside, but you'll hear this thing probably 5 to 10 minutes before. It's the big wall of wind that's pushing a bunch of air and changing the pressure. You'll hear that. Some of you that have sensitivity, muscle and aches and pain sensitivity, you're going to feel it too. That wind will lower the pressure. And then once it goes away, the pressure rises again. So if you get headaches and migraines because of pressure changes, you're probably going to feel it with this as well. Which that's very normal for a scenario like this. You just get a big rush of air. It's a ton of pressure that is lifted up and then put back down as the normal atmosphere pressure comes back. So nothing out of the ordinary. This is just a really strong line of storms. Let's go back to that velocity data. Again, the strongest here. Let me draw if you don't mind. Let's see, erase. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. The strongest is coming right towards the south side of South Bend, like near the Four Winds Casino. That area is going to get clobbered. Down 31's not in great shape. The bypass is not in great shape. The worst wind is right here. All right, and it's moving due east. It doesn't mean north side, South Bend, Notre Dame, Granger. You're not in exactly the clear by any means, but it appears the very worst of this will be downtown and especially south side, South Bend, along the bypass, the casino area, and then basically riding along the bypass. So think about Madison Township, the rural area down there in southern St. Joseph County, the city of Elkhart, but especially South Elkhart, Goshen, Bristol, Dunlap, those areas would be next in line within probably 20 to 30 minutes. All right. Just making sure I'm up to date with everything. 1 second. Thank you for your patience. Let me turn on the clock. That would be helpful. I know that. Okay. Looks good. Oops, let me put these comments back up here. Put a little clock up there so you see what time it is in Eastern time. Just a reminder, as we roll through this, I live in the town of Niles. If my power goes out, I go out with it. So make sure if that happens, you continue with local television, I'm sure is on, any of the streamers that are well known. But just make sure you're staying ahead of this as it continues to push through our area. Hopefully I don't lose you, but we'll see how this plays out. It does look like the bulk of this, though, I want to reiterate, is right here. The really gusty winds are right there. Um, Next in line would be South Bend, specifically and especially the south side. So US 31, US 20 bypass and south, really, really nasty down there. Um, so please keep that in mind. But that does not mean the rest of us are going to get missed. Those are just the worst winds being detected by radar. Coming towards Plymouth. So if you live between Plymouth and South Bend, you are next within the next few moments. Next in line, we got to start focusing on Elkhart and Kosciuszko counties. Probably 20 to 30 minutes. You got a little bit of time, but start thinking now. Are you going to go down to your basement, middle of your home? Where can you get away from the wind? Because it's enough wind to kind of push limbs and branches and stuff through trees. So 80 to 90 mile an hour winds for a line of storms is extremely significant. That is effectively a large weak tornado. The weak EF zeros are less than 100 miles an hour, and this is what that is widespread. So we're going to have lots of trees down, lots of power outages. I would absolutely do your best to charge your phones while you can. Just think ahead here. All right. I'm going to take this off. Let's go back to regular radar, get the overall picture here of what's going on. Again, the radar does a good job telling the picture itself. When you get this backward C, we call this a bow echo. And where that C is most bent, oops, of course, right when I'm trying to draw this, we get new data coming in. Where that C is most bent is where the gustiest winds are going to be. Let me shut this off, turn that back on. Let me put my little marker back on. So there's that backward C right there, right? Right here would be the worst winds. Now, it doesn't mean it's not windy on top or below that. Don't get me wrong, it still is. The worst is that box, and it's pushing due east. So if you live in South Bend or Mishawaka, specifically and especially the south sides, if you live south of the bypass, if you live in Plymouth or north of there, that's where the worst of the wind is. It's pushing to the east. That would mean Napanee. That would mean probably Goshen, New Paris. Those areas are going to be next in line for the big gust of wind. Now, I want to make sure I am not, sorry, guys, we're getting tons of new data in, so it's digesting all of that. But I want to make sure that we do not minimize the threats outside of there, because it's just very gusty winds all over the place. Could try to show you here some of this is just one part of the cell here, all right? But the wind expected to be anywhere from 75 to 85 miles an hour, which is very significant for a thunderstorm. All right, so we'll keep that on. I'm going to shut that thread off. Do one thing. Let me look at my phone real quick. All right. I'm going to put back on velocity just because I think I've gotten everyone's eyes used to that now. Let's do that one. So the gustiest wind, again, this is moving due to the east. I can try to put this into motion. Last time I did this, it was too much data for my little computer, so we'll see if it can load it. I shouldn't say little computer. It's doing a bunch at once right now, trying to live stream and all that. Yeah, I don't really like the loop. That's okay, though. I was just trying to show it to you in motion so you could see where it's at. But the gustiest wind, we can use this for now, is going to be the leading edge. It's going to be right here. So here's downtown South Bend. Things don't look awful. They don't look good, but from a perspective of the neighboring communities, a little bit better. Southern St. Joseph County getting just clobbered right now with extremely gusty wind as this pushes to the east. So I'm going to put a little storm track on this. Unfortunately, the cities I have are kind of mounted to the side of the screen, so I may not be able to show it to you. Shoot, I can't. Oh well. But it's moving fast enough where like Wyatt and over towards Wakarusa, we're talking like the next 10 to 15 minutes at absolute most. Specifically Wakarusa, it's over you now, Wyatt. So heads up in that area. But right here, that's the very, very gusty winds. Plymouth to south side of South Bend. That's where the gustiest of the winds are right now. If you want, I can zoom in a little bit just to show you where that's at. So obviously Bremen, La Paz, but the edge of all those colors are where the really gusty wind is. So we're talking the south side of or southern St. Joseph County, that'd be the Madison Township area. You're like Madison Elementary, the churches and farm towns down that way. But next in line, very quickly, we're talking 5 at most 10 minutes, but probably closer to 5. Wakarusa, Napanee, the south side of Elkhart, and then Goshen, Milford, New Paris. You're next in line for this big blast of wind that is pushing through the region. Marshall County, northern Marshall County, so over towards Plymouth. You've got the big blast of wind, but I already mentioned Bremen, also towards La Paz, and then you have to think east of there. You got to keep thinking east. I know we're focusing a lot on where is it at right now, but east of there would be Etna Green, Leesburg, over towards obviously I mentioned Napanee, but Milford, Syracuse, North Webster, Lake Tippy, or Tippy Lake, Lake Wawasee, the Barbie chain, down towards Pierceton. And then you make your way up 13. So like Millersburg, for example, all of you guys are going to get slammed with this wind. Right now it's over US 31 between South Bend and Plymouth. That's where the worst of the wind is as this continues to push to the east. Next in line will basically be State Road, I'd say 19. So from Napanee to I would say Elkhart. I don't want to go much farther than that, but basically State Road 19 as you make your way, let's say Etna Green and points northward. That would probably be next in line. Which I can, for those of you who aren't familiar with our area, you're new, which welcome. Is basically like right here ish, does something like that. That would be next in line for the storms that are rolling through. Once these pass your area, so you get that big blast of wind, that is it. Severe weather threat is over for you. So don't feel like you need to stay on or stay in your safe spot. Once that big blast of wind comes through, you are good to go. And the severe weather threat will be over for you. Again, just to reiterate, here's where the strongest winds are, right there. Plymouth down towards Wyatt, South Bend area, pushing to the east, meaning Elkhart and Goshen are next in line for this. There is some strong wind on the state line area that would be like Buchanan and Niles. It doesn't look as bad as South Bend, but it's not going to be great. You're still going to get some really gusty wind as this pushes through. But the worst is St. Joseph County, specifically central and southern St. Joe County. So bypass south, pushing to the east. But I want to make sure I continue reiterating that is the worst. It doesn't mean outside of there is good. I just think the worst of it is going to be in that area. Next in line is going to be Napanee, Wakarusa, probably Elkhart, especially the south side of Elkhart and Dunlap, Goshen, New Paris, Milford. You're next in line for this big wall of wind that is coming your way. I'll put on regular reflectivity. This is what you normally see when you're looking at my app. I want to zoom out just a little bit. I know the radar is moving all over the place. I'm trying to do a couple of things for everybody here. Here's the gusty wind. It's going to be near South Bend, but especially the south side of St. Joe County, and now the east side of Marshall County. That backward C right there. That's what we call a bow echo. That is textbook classic straight line wind. It's getting, all that rain is pushing air in front of the storm. And that air just rolls and rolls and rolls and picks up steam. And that's exactly what's happening. To the east of there is next in line. So Goshen, probably Elkhart, especially south side of Elkhart, but Dunlap, Goshen towards New Paris, Syracuse, Milford, Leesburg area, and probably Warsaw going to get slammed with a decent amount of wind as well. Put that into motion for you. That way you can see where it's going and how it's moving. pushing to the east. Right now, it is over St. Joseph County in Indiana. Real gusty winds over the South Bend area. Very, very gusty near Lakeville, but want to continue focusing on who is next. That would be Napanee, Elkhart, Goshen, Milford, New Paris, next in line for this. The city of Warsaw next as well. This tornado warning